Your mic, Laura.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to bring greetings on behalf of the PIOJ. So salutations to our Director General, Planning Institute, Dr. Wayne Henry, our presenters this morning, Mrs. Anika Shuttleworth, Acting CEO of eGov Jamaica, Mr. Gabriel Heron, the Vice President of Marketing for JAMPRO, and Mr. Jason Scott, Deputy President, Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance. Also, welcome to other heads of ministries, departments, and agencies present here today. We're quite happy to see so many persons signing on. Private sector organization leaders and members, members of the PIOJ Board of Management, PIOJ directors, and other colleagues from the PIOJ. Ladies and gentlemen all, good morning. It is my honor to welcome you on behalf of the Planning Institute of Jamaica to the Growth Inducement Programme's annual Economic Growth Forum. This forum will be comprised of a series of 3 monthly fora, starting with today's session that will address how technological disruptions can support growth. We are encouraged to have so many persons from a wide cross-section here with us today, from the public sector, the private sector, and social sectors, demonstrating your interest and commitment to unleashing Jamaica's economic potential by embracing and harnessing leading-edge technology in spite of shocks such as COVID. Prior to the impact of the pandemic, Jamaica made significant progress in stabilizing the economy, having consistent, albeit limited, economic growth, and getting many of our economic indicators pointing in the right direction. This was a result of many years, even decades, of pursuing numerous, often arduous economic and social initiatives, including policies and programs, and legislative and fiscal reforms. The GIP, as a key part of our mandate, has assessed the post-implementation impact of some of these numerous measures and shared findings on how specific initiatives and cross-cutting procedures could be more effective in bolstering Jamaica's economic growth and thereby the livelihood and well-being of our people. Today, however, we'll be looking at how we could, in fewer steps and fewer years, significantly propel Jamaica's development and economy by leaps and bounds above what many of us dared to imagine even before we logged on this morning. This growth forum is meant to be a means through which all actors in the Jamaican economy, large and small, can share challenges and successes, build networks, and generate meaningful discussions around areas for our priority action to exponentially boost the Jamaican economy. Later today, we will hear the term moonshot, which can not only be applied to the development of technology, but can be applied generally to mean a concerted effort to achieve a lofty goal. And that is exactly what we want everyone present here today to be inspired to do. Dream big on how we can, in a practical way, from all the angles represented here today, bring about a giant leap in Jamaica's economic activity, output, and benefits derived by its people. More specifically, via 3 20-minute presentations, this forum will highlight technological disruptions for growth in government that can create more efficient public services and an enabling business environment. This will include the potential impact of implementation of technology in Jamaica's international competitiveness, with insights from ongoing developments in Tax Administration Jamaica, the Companies Office of Jamaica, and Jamaica Customs. Finally, the potential for disruptive technology as an avenue for growth at the firm level, including micro, small, and medium enterprises, the mainstay of the Jamaican economy, will be featured. Each presentation will be followed by a 15-minute question and answer session and a quick poll. in both of which we strongly encourage you to participate. I will conclude today's events with closing remarks, including some key takeaways from our presentations and discussions. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to your participation and continued constructive interchange long after today's forum has ended. And now, opening remarks from the PIOJ's Director General, Dr. Wayne Henry.
Ms. Laura Levy, Growth Inducement Programme Director, and today's moderator, Mrs. Anika Shuttleworth, Acting Chief Executive Officer, eGov Jamaica Limited, Mr. Gabriel Heron, Vice President of Marketing, Jamaica Promotions Corporation, and Mr. Jason Scott, Deputy President, Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance, our presenters today. Other heads of ministries, departments, and agencies present today, and other government representatives, leaders and members of the private sector, members of the PIOJ Board of Management, PIOJ directors, and other colleagues from the PIOJ, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. On behalf of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, I'm pleased to welcome you all to the Growth Inducement Programme's second annual Economic Growth Forum, today held under the theme, How Technological Disruptions Can Support Growth. For the past year, Jamaica, and indeed the entire world, has had to face, adapt to, and begin recovery from the negative impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Even from our modus operandi today, it is apparent that COVID-19 has fundamentally changed the way we live, work, and do business in Jamaica by significantly accelerating the use of digital technologies in all spheres. This pivoting from a traditional to digital has been recently explored in fora on various aspects of resilience to shocks, particularly the importance of digitalization of public and private services. Today, we'll explore how disruptive technology can be utilized to stimulate further innovation through the transformation of economic structures and business models to engender the agility required to effectively function in the COVID-19 era and beyond. This will include an examination of how other countries have, and Jamaica could, utilize these technologies to fundamentally alter the way that agencies, industries, businesses, and consumers operate, making them more productive and profitable. Today's forum reflects a central mandate of the PIOJ's Growth Inducement Programme, GIP, to identify, assess, and share information on roadblocks, solutions, and emerging opportunities for economic growth in Jamaica. This is done both with and for its varied stakeholders, including government organizations, private sector leaders, and umbrella organizations, unions, members of academia, and the wider public. The presentations and ensuing discussions are intended to inform and motivate the timely development of innovative and targeted government and business responses that take advantage of emerging growth opportunities. As a country, we have earnestly undertaken many growth initiatives over the years, and while significant progress has been made in many areas, we have not seen the levels of economic growth that we desire. We believe that it is important to draw on our experiences while looking toward new solutions arising from the fourth industrial revolution currently underway. The aim is to identify applicable opportunities and devise coordinated approaches to effectively create transformative solutions that will bolster business activity. A supportive and invigorated business environment will significantly increase Jamaica's ability to achieve the goals and targets outlined in Vision 2030 Jamaica National Development Plan to attain improved economic and social outcomes. I commend the GIP and the wider PIOJ team for their efforts in conceptualizing and executing this Growth Forum series. I also extend our appreciation to all the stakeholders who have partnered with us, including eGov Jamaica Limited, Jamaica Productions Corporation, JAMPRO, and the Jamaica Computer Society, which is now a part of the Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance. Special thanks to today's presenters, everyone in attendance, and those who will participate today. We look forward to meaningful and constructive exchanges as we continue to target robust, sustainable, and inclusive economic growth to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business, Please continue to follow the government guidelines to balance life and livelihoods. Keep safe, and God bless you all.
Thank you so much for those opening remarks, DG. And now that our DG has provided an appetizer, let us get to the main course, our 3 presentations for today. To maximize everyone's experience, we ask that you keep your mics muted and your cameras off unless you're asked to otherwise do so. And we encourage you to share your comments and questions in the chat, and our chat monitors will relay them to each presenter on your behalf during the question and answer session that will immediately follow their presentation. I'll be introducing our presenters in reverse order, starting with our final presenter, Mr. Jason Scott. Jason is a tech entrepreneur who has a knack for marrying the right tech with the right business case. He has years of experience architecting, yes, that's a word, implementing and executing complex systems while helping clients to understand the what and the why along the way. Jason is presently head of digital transformation at Grace Kennedy General Insurance and is part of the team driving digital transformation throughout the GK Group. He has also been a council member of the Jamaica Computer Society since 2015 and is presently the Society's deputy president, where he is leading partnerships with persons in the diaspora to enable people and businesses here in Jamaica. Interesting to note is that the Jamaica Computer Society just this week merged with the Jamaica Information Technology and Services Alliance to form the Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance. You heard it here first, folks. More anon from Jason. Our second presenter will be Mr. Gabriel Heron, who is a strategic marketing and business development executive with extensive local and international experience in delivering on a wide range of strategic projects. One such key project saw him leading the development and marketing of the only Caribbean-owned online remittance payment processing website. That's a mouthful. And that website services the British, American, and Canadian markets. In addition to holding an MBA with focus on marketing and finance from the University of Brunel, London, Gabriel is certified as a digital marketing professional by the Digital Marketing Institute, UK. Gabriel is a true patriot who is proud to have worked with homegrown iconic brands such as J. Ray & Nephew and the Jamaica National Group. And now he markets Jamaica as a vice president of marketing at JamPro. Furthermore, on the National Competitive Council, Gabriel is a chair of the marketing subcommittee tasked with driving communications for awareness and uptake of business environment reforms here in Jamaica. Given all of this, I am sure that we'll have an interesting insights and presentations that will span both private and public sector interests from Gabriel. Our first presenter, from whom we will hear immediately after this, is Mrs. Anika Shuttleworth. Along with a multitude of qualifications too long for me to read in the time I've been given, Anika's background includes strategic management, business and product development, project management, business analysis, software development, and quality management. She has over 18 years of experience in information technology industry, 15 of which has been spent with eGov Jamaica Limited. Prior to her appointment as eGov's acting chief executive officer on December 1st, 2020, she was a senior director of Business Solution Services Division since 2018, and before that, the head of eGov's Research and Innovation Department. Anika wholeheartedly believes in nation building, delivering efficient and effective services to customers, and empowering young people to achieve their full potential. She will briefly explain what disruptive technology is, why we need it, and how Jamaica can benefit from utilizing it. From a government perspective. Now, please remember to keep your mics muted and place your comments and questions in the chat as the presentation progresses, ahead of the question and answer session that will immediately follow Anika's presentation. Thank you so much, Anika.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much to the Planning Institute of Jamaica for having me at this, your annual Economic Growth Forum, under the theme, Technological Disruptions, Supporting Growth. The COVID pandemic has been a disruptor in our lives in so many ways. But guess what? As typical Jamaicans, we are a resilient and creative people. We know how to turn our hands to make fashion. We know how to innovate. Jamaica's ongoing economic success depends on our ability to harness technological advances to improve existing businesses, create new products and markets, enhance our daily lives. We certainly are not in this alone as a people, and we have benefited from learning what other nations have done to leverage technology to advance their own economies. This calls for a shift in mindset, in leadership, as we continue to work in a VUCA world. We do exist in a world, my friends, that is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous in so many ways. But notwithstanding, we are resilient and creative. Who remembers the Nokia 3310 phone? I certainly had one, and it was one of the strongest cell phones I've ever had. That company was a market leader, but it was disrupted by innovators such as BlackBerry, Apple, Samsung, amongst others. Nokia experienced volatility based on the rate of change that took place. It experienced uncertainty and was unable to sufficiently predict behavior change, such as the need for more friendly user interfaces. It experienced complexity and ambiguity in handling chaos, multifaceted effects, and a change in reality of what real human behavior had evolved to be. As a government, as businesses, we certainly do not want to be disrupted or be so-called pushed out as Nokia was, or made irrelevant as Nokia was. But we want to have this kind of mindset change that will allow us to become even more innovative at our service delivery. And so we have to develop an adaptive mindset, have a vision, network and collaborate, develop our people, and certainly design for the future. Now, Henry Ford once said, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So you know Henry Ford. He's the one who came up with these vehicles, the Ford motor vehicles that some persons drive. He was indeed an innovator, a disruptor. Likewise, in Jamaica, we have our dressmakers, our farmers, shopkeepers, etc., who wants to have successful businesses where they can comfortably take care of their families. They want, in fact, we all want to have a nation where we innovate and create, where we leverage technology to become even more efficient at what we do. There are several forms of technology that are being used in our society, including free Wi-Fi, Jamaica Eye, and others, and these are great. But what we need, my dear friends, is digital disruption. That is absolutely what we need, which is underpinned by disruptive technology, where innovation significantly alters the way consumers, industries, and businesses operate. A truly disruptive technology not only changes the way that people think, but also the way that they operate. Let us think about that for a little bit. We do have drivers of this change that we're talking about. And the drivers of change are multifaceted. As it relates to demographics, we have rapid urban migration and urbanization that is taking place. People are leaving country to come to town. Increased human lifespan. And of course, we all have become global citizens because we operate on any given day as though we are operating from Tokyo, China, in other places. That's just what has happened. As a society, we have security and privacy concerns. We have adopted a digital lifestyle. And in fact, some of us can't even go to our beds without looking at the cell phone before going to sleep. We sleep with the cell phone in our hands or under our pillows. By the way, that's not good. But let us, however, be mindful of those underconnected citizens that are in our society. On the economic front, there is growing debt and rising income inequality. There are new talent models and the open talent economy. But these drivers have influenced the various types of technology that we use, that we think to use, as we certainly need to employ to improve our way of life. That certainly will maximize the opportunities for people where no one is left behind. We want none of our vulnerable groups to be left behind. Services, we want to have better service delivery, resilient, secure, quality data. Also, enabling environments such as our regulatory systems. All of these are what we want to have in place, the result being new products, new markets, efficient work, absolutely, increased profitability, happier citizens. That is what we want. Jeff Bezos, who is the founder and CEO of Amazon, said, "We see our customers as invited guests to a party, and we are the hosts. It's our job every day to make every important aspect of the customer experience a little bit better." Here's my question. What kind of experience, what kind of customer experience do you want to create? What kind of customer experience do we as a government, as businesses, want to create? This requires a 3D thinking, human-centered design, data, digital, working together to improve the interactions of government, business, citizens, making personalized services a reality. Now, innovative service delivery is one of the things that we need. Of course, bearing in mind the 3D thinking, design, data, digital, underpinned by technologies such as big data, open data, digital identity, predictive analytics, digital automation, augmented intelligence and augmented reality, as well as cloud computing, and the list is by no means exhaustive. As a people, what we want is a no-touch government, not a government that requires us to join too many lines. None of us really wants to be in any line. And so how about automatic transfer of data, birth data, death data, without the need for citizens to have to go to the Registrar General's Department, without us having to go to the Accountant General's Department. When somebody dies, why do we need to take a death certificate over to the Administrator General's Department even? It is already traumatic on the family. So let us have a no-touch government, certainly touching lives in different ways, but cutting out those unnecessary processes. We want to have a once-only government that uses a single digital identity to conduct online citizen interactions, instead of us as citizens having to log into several places, a tax admin portal, customs portal, all over the place, a centralized place where we log in, and that's it. We would then be able to access government services. We also want our government to be data smart, anticipatory, leveraging big data and augmented intelligence. Big data is defined as certainly a collection of data that is large, complex, rapidly changing, that enables better and more informed decision and policy making, certainly through the analysis of the data that is presented. Augmented intelligence, according to Gartner, is a human-centered partnership model of people and artificial intelligence working together to enhance cognitive performance. So it is not about the computer doing everything, which is what artificial intelligence primarily speaks to, but augmented intelligence where, as a people, we are able to take on that body of work where the computer assists and enables us in providing the services that we need to do. And here are some of the cases of how the government can become even more data smart and anticipatory in leveraging the power of augmented intelligence and big data, identifying the spread of diseases early. Certainly we know that that is absolutely needed. How about listening to social media for public feedback on topics pertaining to the government? For example, the Prime Minister spoke so much last night in his presentation about the COVID situation. How about listening to what social media is saying about the own your own device application and other such? How about responding to emergency situations? Generating dynamic data dashboards, certainly to assist in answering citizen questions. These are indeed critical to our interactions as a people and certainly for the government to serve its people. Drive marketing and sales. We like to try and buy things. We like to try on the shoes and things. And here it is that, again, this is not even new, but leveraging augmented reality and mobile apps to be able to try on glasses and see what it would look like on us before we even go into a store and waste time trying on 20 different glasses. Improving customer service, where there is use of chatbots to answer direct questions and certainly have humans answer complex queries. Last week, for example, I had the occasion to call the Jamaica Public Service about something. And when I called the toll-free number, I was told that I was 54th in line. I couldn't imagine sitting and waiting all the way in that queue. So I decided to go to the website and click on the chat feature, at which time it indicated I was 9th. So I said, okay, not quite being so sure if it would work. I decided to let both of them run. And indeed, I got through on the chat quickly, easily, sitting at my desk. It was very easy. And by the time I was completed with that online transaction, the phone told me that I was now 34th in line. There you have it. Identifying fraudulent activities, predicting crime, predicting traffic congestion. All of these are things that we can use as a people to enhance our lives. We also want to have an augmented government. What does this mean? This is new. This is simply government leveraging augmented reality applications and capabilities in delivering our service to people. Augmented reality really is just real world augmented by computer generated data and visuals. That's really what it is. It overlays real world with the computer generated things that make it seem 3D, three-dimensional, that we're actually in that particular world. Here are some applications on the augmented reality. Snapshot showroom. You can point your device, and by the way, Wayfair in the States also has that. Point your device to overlay a furniture in a room to make decisions as to whether to buy, to figure out if this thing, how does it look in your place, patterns and things like that. Then there's Crime Spot. Again, point your device, that's your mobile device, at a street location to create a safe and secure score based on local crime data. This now leverages big data, open data possibly, depending on what it is. How about Dr. Mole? I thought this one was interesting. Point your device at your skin for a cursory diagnosis of whether a blemish appears to be cancerous. Who knows? It's something for the doctors to consider. We also have cases of augmented emergency management and augmented transportation security. Augmented reality app being provided to citizens in certain emergency zones. Think about, where we have bushfires and things breaking out, providing visualizations regarding the severity, the location, the path, the potential damage, possibly based on previous trends. For example, up at Jacksonville, where pretty much every year there is a bushfire up there, the government would be able to utilize this augmented emergency management solution to allow us to have that kind of visual into what is or what could be, let's say. Airport screening agents have been using augmented reality to verify the identity of passengers. We don't do that in Jamaica, but it's something for us to seriously consider. Mapping passenger face to their ID, the name to the boarding pass, creating 3D visuals in real time. This is being used across the globe using Google Glasses, etc. Jamaica is a tourism mecca of the world. How about using augmented reality also in our tourism sector, where we offer our guests information-rich tours that they are able to navigate the hills and turns of Jamaica, where they're able to have their own language overlaid within the app. So if they're coming from China and speaking Mandarin, for example, then it speaks to them in their own language, helps them to understand the surroundings. And as good old Jamaicans, we know how to turn our hands, make fashion. We push some advertising in there as well so that we can make some money. So this, my friends, is innovative operation, innovative service delivery. And then we're moving on to innovative operations that leverages 3D thinking. Remember, design, data, digital. Again, similar type of technologies as before. We're seeing a trend where there are shared services. Organizations want to improve in their own service delivery. So instead of back offices just being routine work, what they're moving towards is enterprise insight generators. These offices becoming more analytical, providing insight into the business. X as a service, pay as you go model, so software as a service, platform as a service that allows businesses to scale at need. There are also digital factories, which is a production facility where people, machines, raw materials, products share information about the various stages of the production process, utilizing smart sensors, cloud storage, big data analytics. Finally, innovative workforce. And we know that we surely do want our farmers or white collar workers or blue collar workers all across the nation to be able to leverage technology to their own benefit and to the benefit of the organizations and the nation. Again, leveraging 3D thinking, utilizing technologies such as big data, predictive analytics, cloud computing. Now, the BBC has a talent cloud. This is not new, but it's something for us to consider here in Jamaica. The government of Canada actually also has one, which is a database or a pool of freelancers on a platform that the company chooses or pre-select, yes, as their first choice when work needs to be done. Then we have the internal talent marketplace, which is hosted on a technology platform that connects employees with opportunities inside and outside the organization. So can you imagine as what is happening in COVID now, where we're all being constrained, we have to move quickly to provide solutions. But then you discover that you have capacity in the rest of your organization, persons who have skills that are needed, but perhaps they are not being as utilized to the extent that you would want. Internal talent marketplace platforms, again, not new, but they do allow for persons to become upskilled and cross-skilled and contribute their skills, managers to be able to use to deploy, motivate, retain employees, workforce analytics as well. It's key. We have a whole wealth of HR data that certainly we need to use to harness, harvest, to verify skills and competencies, to predict workforce trends, so we will know what kinds of talents will be needed later on. Here's an exciting one for me also, just-in-time civil service, which we've seen playing out so much, especially in recent times again, which is a public workforce, not just central government, but a public workforce of flexible talent that work together based on the needs of a particular project. Partnership talent, borrowed talent, freelance talent, open source talent. This is a pool of people who, they don't really work for, in fact, they don't work for government. In our sense, we say that they are private sector, but they are part of the value chain. And we've seen, based on what the Prime Minister announced yesterday with respect to the ends, the curfew delivery app, private sector partnering with the government to be able to deliver on a service that certainly, as a nation, continues to provide this disruptive technology, yet We're having a digital disruption happening right before us as a result of what COVID has created. And again, all of this requires a shift in mindset. As a people, we are required to be adaptive, predictive and analytical, agile, innovative, creatively manage our talent, and absolutely being citizen and client focused. Ladies and gentlemen, let us continue to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Anika. You know, it's interesting what you kind of summed up with there at the end in terms of Jamaica needing a mindset change. And I'm sure we'll be hearing more about that from our other presenters and our attendees today. But, you know, it's said, if you can see it, you can believe it and you can achieve it. And I think personally that Jamaica tends not to think very big. Maybe it's due to our size, our limited resources, or deep trust issues that we tend to have. And also you had mentioned in terms of being, you know, customer or client focused. That's something that we've really always struggled with. So a question arose for me during your presentation. Can you give us an example of a recent tech development implemented, whether here in Jamaica or elsewhere, that has or can change mindsets?
Thank you so very much, Laura. It's so difficult to choose just one. I think of so many. For example, the Jamaica Post implemented their track and trace service recently. We have other services like DoorDash, Postmates, Uber Eats, and certainly the one that I mentioned earlier to you, the ends solution, Pon the Ends, to allow similar to Uber Eats, but it's really for Jamaica. Now what all of this facilitates is contactless delivery and shipping. This is COVID time, so we do want to be able to efficiently deliver products to the customer, but they can all take it to another step, and I'm sure some of them have, which is really to overlay traffic information, deliver preferences, deliver routes, things of that nature, which is where the whole matter of analytics would come in now to facilitate efficient delivery and dispatching of drivers and riders and so forth across.
Very interesting. Yes. Thank you so much, Anika. That announcement by the PM about ends was very interesting. Mm-hmm. Let us turn to our attendees. Do we have any questions? Chat monitors? Questions, comments for Mrs. Shuttleworth?
Can I ask through the moderator, through you?
Oh, wonderful. DG, please.
So thank you very much, Mrs. Shuttleworth. Very, very enlightening presentation. I wanted to ask, we are in that fourth revolution in terms of industrial revolution. We are at the cusp of a lot of breakthrough innovations, some thrust upon us because of the time and the context of the pandemic. But you know, a concern I have, and I just wanted your reaction in terms of our long-term view, how we would position Jamaica, small island developing states for jobs of the future. We will be training more persons in IT and in innovation. And as you speak to mindset change, that we begin to even reward them more in the public sector. So that as you think of some of the challenges that will emerge with the technology, you know how where persons begin to use technology for tax avoidance. You know, you transfer payments and online payments. You can move some of the elements outside the jurisdiction, etc. And you're going to need some bright minds to know how to regulate in an efficient way. You're going to need to know how do we keep up, right? As you speak big data analytics and the ability to leverage big data. And I think we've certainly had that challenge at the PIOJ. We're getting ready to do more with big data and some capabilities, and we're engaging with your entity and others. And one of our teammates was driving that process, migrated shortly after. And I said how difficult that was for us, and even to try to replace. And we have a tremendous IT team, but they're under pressure because it's hard to attract and to build a team from the outside and to pay the types of salaries, etc., in the public sector. So it speaks from a mindset change, from a people management standpoint of view. But I just wanted to hear you speak to that as you speak of anticipatory government, that as we are leaning forward and to be more flexible and agile, it means that we have to do more in the whole structure of government and how we train, how we reward to attract the right type of talent.
Mr. Henry, thank you so very much for that. As you spoke, those were some of the very thoughts that I had, because the fact is that our children are not cultured towards innovation, or how our schools are. It's really rote education. They need to get into innovation, starting businesses, all of that. So the mindset shift really starts from the family, and that will absolutely help the rest of the nation. So how we train, just yesterday also I was on the phone with the Scientific Research Council. More schools need to have science clubs, things like that changes that sort of mindset. But not only that, as a people, we have to be very creative. We are creative Jamaicans, we know, but we have to get creative towards the delivery of solutions, which does also impact our workspaces. Because the fact is that lots of work will come, but what we don't want is to be losing business opportunity as time goes by. So we have to look at scalability also in delivering our services. How repeatable can something potentially be? Can I develop a product or a service that can be marketed across the world? It is repeatable. I just kind of customize it, tweak it, and I'm making money as time goes by. So the potential is just so great. As I said, from the education standpoint, as well as from the actual workplace, there are things that we can do leveraging the data. The data is there. The government some years ago had launched an open data platform, which some persons don't even know about. Again, that is something that can spawn businesses. Data is there. How can it be mined now to produce services, analytical services, products, mobile apps, etc., that will overlay on all sorts of other things that will help to make businesses, make money for very small businesses. Some of them you really don't need too much money to even do. Imagine utilizing open data. Data is already there. Permission has already been granted. You're not breaching anything to use that data. So we have to just continue to get creative, be visionaries, design for the future. I'd forgotten to say that earlier. We have to design for the future. I've seen too many cases where we're designing for the now. But again, we have to do all of that with repeatability in mind so that we can grow. That is one of the ways in which the nation will continue to grow. Set it and forget it type of mindset.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Henry and Anika, for that clarification. I do love that point that we need to be looking forward and planning for the future and not constantly trying to catch up. We have a question in the chat from Mrs. Powell. Anika mentioned the no-touch government, that no-touch government is desired. How do you change the mindset of persons who still want the touch government by, not utilizing the online services?
I like that question so very much. Thank you so much for that, Sharon. Let me tell you something. We will have persons who want to see somebody. Think about our elderly who have been locked in since COVID. It is very painful for them. So for them, going to the bank, it's a day out. They get to dress up and they go out and they have tea and they chat. Yes? But the fact is that though, too many of us waste good productive time in lines. We really don't want to have to do that. It is really unnecessary. We should be utilizing our time to do more creative things. So there is that kind of balance, and always awareness, sensitization is important. At the same time, recognizing that persons will have their preferences. So we have to just facilitate both. Remember earlier I had said we don't want anybody to be left behind. What we don't want also is for those who prefer the touch, the physical interaction, to feel as though they are being punished. It should not be that they are punished. We do want to incentivize the no touch, but that kind of balance is really what is required. Thank you for that, Sharon.
Yeah. We have another question from David Wan. All this technology is fantastic, but considering where we are, wouldn't the first priority be to ensure broadband access to all, plus facilitating acquisition of appropriate digital devices to make sure we're truly digital society? So are we putting the cart before the horse?
David, I love that question so much. Listen, the government has already started an initiative towards broadband access. And we have, you know, remember earlier I had talked about the kind of civil society that we have and different groups working together. The fact is that an initiative has already started towards extending broadband into schools in the first instance and in other areas, because we know what COVID has. There are quite a few students. I think the last stats I saw, approximately 40% of our students are still not in school, despite us having gone through the pandemic for a year, you know, and you know of initiatives that have started towards those tablets and laptops initiatives through the Ministry of Education's Own Your Own Device program. Other companies and so forth, businesses have come on board and have been facilitating students getting these devices. So you're right, we can't put the cart before the horse, because we do need to have that sort of infrastructure in place so that we can now overlay those services and again, make the services easier to access, because there's no point in having all these online services if the very foundation is not there. Persons do not have access to the internet. We also want it to be affordable. So that is something that our telcos need to look at. We are in a pandemic. It is causing all of us to have this appetite for bandwidth. It is there, it is necessary. So, but we all have to come together to truly make this a digital society that everyone can benefit from. Thanks for that question, David.
Thanks, Anika. In answering that question, though, I noticed that you mentioned that it's something for the providers to look into, but I don't know if I should be asking this publicly, but is there anything that we can do besides just consumer demand to press for better and more, you know, expansive service from these providers, or bring other providers in? Is there any thought given to that?
Well, you know what? I'll answer it this way. It's always a tricky question. Always a tricky question. I don't know if I can answer that one fully, Laura. But we do have the telcos, and the government has been working with them and other providers in building out this kind of broadband, with cable providers and others, yes, that already have their tentacles in the rural areas. It already exists. It means leveraging that which is there. We've been talking some years now about GovNet, a government-wide network. So when you overlay all those various types of networks and services, we should be able to now achieve the promulgation of that kind of internet bandwidth that is required. The regulators and our legislature will have a different point now as it relates to how to, you know, if they want to bring on additional providers and so forth, that can be handled at a later date. But as I said, I believe we have enough parties and players and actors in this space right now that if we all work together, we can achieve good.
Understood. Thank you so much for clarifying that. So we have about 5 more minutes. Do we have any other questions in the chat for Anika? Okay, is it practical for certain geographic areas to have access to the bandwidth that may be required? Is it cost effective for the service providers to consider? So more on the point we're talking about getting into the nooks and crannies of Jamaica. We know we have a lot of nooks and crannies, but that's where the children live, and that's where, you know, a lot of us work as well. So, you know, do you think that it is practical to really ask the service providers to go into that area, in those areas, if they're going to lose money there?
All right, I like the question too, because it's not just about the existing telcos. As I mentioned earlier, we have cable providers who are in some of those very areas. There is also wireless technology. So it has to be a mixture of technology that will give us enough distribution. And Jamaica is not the only one, by the way. I've had conversations with persons from Guyana and Grenada and other places where they too have the kind of topography that we do. And, you know, they've been able to leverage that sort of mix, wired versus wireless, or, you know, technologies to facilitate. But guess what? We still may not be able to achieve 100%. And so this is where it is important for us at least to get into schools, get into post offices, community centers, some of those common areas that at least if you are in an area where it's, you know, you're having a challenge because you really do live up on the pinnacle of a hill, you can then come down to the community center to have access to the service. And we have seen some of that kind of creativity happening now, where persons move to areas that have internet. But what we do want is some more persons to obviously be able to remain at home. So it is really that sort of balance that will happen. Of course, the cost-effective point is quite it's very important. You know, some of these providers, it just doesn't make good business sense for them to do. So that, again, that is how we leverage the capabilities of everyone in the space, the wireless providers as well, not just the telcos who run cables to facilitate internet access. Thank you for that question, Sharon.
Okay, wonderful. We're just going to do one other quick question, and then we're going to ask everyone to please continue to put your questions in the chat, and hopefully Anika will be able to stay with us and answer what she can. Okay. Finally, just to further go on that point, regarding access to nooks and crannies in Jamaica, isn't that also an opportunity for internet entrepreneurs to fill a gap outside of the major carriers?
It is, David. It is an opportunity for such providers to do. And I am sure if those companies, those entities, those organizations approach the government through the Ministry of Science, Energy and Technology, they'll be willing to have a conversation around it.
Great.
It is. So it is really a collaborative effort. And guess what? COVID, now is the time. Now is the time for us to, you know, leverage the sad thing, the bad thing that COVID is to so many persons, to you know, harness the opportunity that it presents for us to work together as a people in building our nation. So others, especially small businesses, come on board, share with the government the ideas that you have and the products that you have, and let's see how we can all work together.
So true. Thank you. Thank you, Anika. Thank you to everyone for your questions. That really helps us. You know, the note that we're leaving on is helping us to think not just as consumers, but as entrepreneurs, as providers for technological services. So thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you all. And now we're going to be going into our second presentation. Oh, sorry, just before the presentation, we're going to have a very quick poll, just 30 seconds for you to give us your feedback on this session, question and answer, and presentation. And we'll be doing this after each, just so you can, you know, give us your feedback for future planning. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Thank you all so much for responding so quickly. And now we're going to move right on to our second presentation, which is going to be done by Mr. Gabriel Heron.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much, Laura, and for the PIOJ team for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to sharing this information here today. And we will be looking through a very interesting topic, how technology disruptions can support growth. And also we'll delve further, or specifically, impact of the implementation of technological innovations on Jamaica's competitiveness and business environment. My name is Gabriel Heron, as Laura mentioned, Vice President of Marketing at Jamper. So without any further ado, I'll move forward. So firstly, I'm going to walk you through a quick presentation outline of what we're doing here today. Give you a quick background in terms of the context of innovation and technology, go through the National Competitiveness Council and what it is that they do and how important role they play in our business environment. transition then to the technology-based business environment reform that have taken place. This is where we are. And then look at the disruptive technologies. This is not an exhaustive list, or it won't be an exhaustive list, but I've pulled down some of the key ones for us to have a look at, and then we'll transition quickly to the interesting items. What is applicable to Jamaica, and what do we need to leverage going forward? And then finally, have a look at the key takeaways for us to have a discussion, assessment on, and then what is our challenge as Jamaicans going forward. So bear with me and follow me on this journey. Okay, so for background historical context of innovation and technology, in the 1500s, China's economy was the strongest in the world. By the 19th century, US, Western Europe, and Japan leapfrog China. Why is that? In terms of goods and services, the main reason was really the steam engine trains, right? So there's an innovation that caused that leapfrog mainly, right? But it wasn't just steam engine trains, it was also organizationally innovation. So what was the business environment in China versus the rest of the world? And I parallel those two to show you the importance of innovation technology as well as the organizational innovations or the business environment. So we move on. The foundation has been set, or the historical context has been set. So I want to move to the National Competitiveness Council, because as I mentioned before, the Jamaica Business Environment Reforms Agenda is driven by the National Competitiveness Council, or NCC, public-private partnership body, and they drive changes in policy and research. NCC also generates awareness of the reforms, because clearly we want persons to utilize the reforms, because they can't have, you're able to pay taxes online and nobody knows about it. So we have to generate awareness around that. NCC is managed by JAMPRO, and I encourage you all to visit the website at jamaicabusinessreforms.com. So quickly, the Business Environment Reforms Agenda, it's a matrix of over 30 reforms that are updated quarterly. So a lot of work is being done in the background, and it includes reforms that address the entire life cycle of our company. So we're trying to ensure that the business environment really, really improves as we go along, leveraging technology improvements in processes as well. And it's the main means of monitoring and tracking progress of the reform projects in play right now. So NCC plays a very critical role. It gets private sector support. There's a committed membership. There is a public-private partnership, which is important because you need to see what's happening in the private sector. And then, of course, there's a strong governance structure. And we have strategic funding partners in the government of Jamaica and, of course, the World Bank. Now, a country's private investment flow is directly impacted by the ease of doing business. Investors want to know and want to understand that business is easy in a particular country. Jamaica currently ranks as number 6 for starting a business. That's an important indicator for many investors, for argument's sake. So we traditionally use World Bank's Doing Business report as a measurement. We gauge our business environment. We're improving. In 2012, we were at 88 out of 183 countries. In 2020, we're now at 71 out of 190 countries. So we're improving and we're doing better. So what we have to keep at it. All right. So what I want you to hear, there are 10 main business environmental reforms that are taking place. And I'm saying this and I'm going through this because it's very important to get the fundamentals addressed first. So I'm highlighting these fundamental items. So starting a business, I mentioned that we are currently ranked as 6th by the World Bank Doing Business report. Getting electricity, critical for construction companies. As you know, days gone by, it would have taken 2-3 months. Now it takes 2 weeks to get your electricity set up once their connections are already. Registering property, getting credit, protecting minority interests, paying taxes, trading across borders, dealing with construction permits, enforcing contracts, and resolving insolvency. These are all important business environment reforms. And I'm going to distill now some of the ones that are have been implemented that have leveraged technology as we move closer to our discussion. Starting a business. So we can now register a business through Companies Office online, the electronic business registration form. So what does this mean? Persons can have the convenience and efficiency of registering online. The persons in the diaspora can register their company online as well. You can pay taxes online. Tax payments via NCB platform, and you have your TCC. There's a tax compliance certificate system. As of February 12th, the week of February 12th, as an update, there is an auto renewal process now for TCCs. So as much as 53 TCC were auto renewed during that week. So it means that there's an efficiency built into this system, which is important. Trading across borders, they've implemented the PCS, or the Port Community System, which in essence is the tracking of cargo across various cargo points in Jamaica, and is a paperless system that's integrated with the Jamaica Single Window for Trade, JSWIFT, and also with the automated system for customs data, otherwise called ASICUDA, which also includes Exporter JA Online. So persons can now register as exporters online, and this occurs through JAMPRO. Now, as of August 2020 last year, over 200 persons would have registered their business online. So again, no need to come in office, no need to actually physically. So the convenience and the efficiency is now embedded in the online process. So we're moving ahead. Things are improving. The last two is getting electricity. My JPS mobile app launched to request service. So it now means that it's a lot, as I mentioned, a lot easier to get your electricity. Important for developers, for contractors, as a critical part of starting up that business process. Dealing with construction permit, Jamaica Development Application Portal is live. You can apply for permits and you can check status. So clearly, the business environment is improving. We have a way to go, but we are improving, and it's a work in progress. So as a review, the impact of the business environment reforms, tech-based reforms have a significant impact on Jamaica's competitiveness, investments, and potential for economic growth. That goes without saying. And technology improves access, as we know, convenience and efficiency, which all funnels into improvement in our business environment, right? So we move on as we get more into the presentation. So I have a question for us here. What technology-based business environment reforms can enable Jamaica to leapfrog our competitiveness globally? Is it enabling the use of a digital currency? Is it the utilization of blockchain? Everybody's talking about blockchain and how it is applicable to insurance, to remittance, to many other activities outside of Bitcoin. It tends to be associated with Bitcoin, but we're not referring to Bitcoin here. Improvements in the national banking payments system, so real-time payments in terms, 5 seconds, 2 minutes, etc., that drives the efficiency of business transactions? Or is it digital transformation of government services, a complete digital transformation? No paperless, no physical engagement, it's just complete digital transformation in that regard. So I won't answer these questions here. I don't have the answers, but I'm putting it forward as food for thought, as these are some of the main options available in my mind. So, as I mentioned earlier, we're going through 10 globally emerging or disruptive technologies. Renewable energy or energy storage, I don't need to go into the detail as to why that it is disruptive. Internet of Things, all your devices, applications, your car, your fridge, how internet is plugged into those devices, and you can leverage use of those devices in terms of purchasing trends, etc. Space colonization. You'd have known about Elon Musk and his SpaceX and him going to Mars to try and colonize or find other areas. No, this is a real outlier, far-reaching technology, but I put it here because of the implications if things realize. So again, okay, so we're moving on to AgTech, our technology applied to agriculture, in horticulture and aquaculture. And it's really aimed to improve yield, efficiency, and profitability. Very, very important for Jamaica, in my mind, for us to look in this area. Then now we're moving on to automation of knowledge work, advanced robotics. This is clearly a major implication going forward. And it has the potential to not just replace jobs that we do now, but also as individuals, we will automatically be offering other type of jobs, from a creative thought process that robots can't do. Okay, I mentioned blockchain technology earlier as well as a major disruptive technology. 3D printing, another one that is important in terms of its application, is very, very wide, from 3D printing houses to chairs to medical equipment. I mean, almost every aspect of production or manufacturing that you can think of, 3D printing can be applied. Huge possibilities for 3D printing. Medical innovations. This is more as it relates to genetic engineering, CRISPR, specifically. Now, I'd encourage all persons to look up CRISPR. It has ethical considerations, but have a look at it. I won't focus on it here because it's not an area that we want to explore. High-speed trains and travel. One importance of this here, and why it is important, is because of how it will change the business ecosystem and the business environment, because we're now reaching speeds of up to 500 to 600, or projected to. So what that means is that the developed city space and the high population that changes that dynamic for countries. The supply chain dynamics is also changed as well. So it has major far-reaching implications, not just a fast train, for example, for argument's sake. Okay, so we move finally now to disruptive outsourcing. Disruptive outsourcing really is applying the use of certain technological advancements in outsourcing, and specifically automation and cloud computing. Now, cloud computing offers a lot of opportunities and it enables knowledge process outsourcing, information technology outsourcing, which we're seeing already been applicable in Jamaica. How do we leverage this? Locally, we know we've transitioned from just calling it outsourcing to global services sector. And I'll speak to that later on in the presentation. So a lot of exciting things are happening globally as it relates to emerging and disruptive technologies. But how do these technologies fit within Jamaica's ecosystem? How do they sit within our business environment? Because they're all not applicable. So we have to be very careful of what we apply and what we choose. So I'll move next into what I think is most applicable at this time. And there are other areas as well that are applicable, but I particularly looked at these because they're interchangeable and they reinforce each other. Know that the integrated resource plan came out, and we have anticipation of the RFP being issued shortly for the spectrum of power energy generation along wind, solar, LNG, and waste energy. Right, so particularly for wind solar, what's happening globally, a lot of farming and agriculture is paralleled with solar and wind energy to drive the farming operation or the energy needs of the farming operations. No, so you leverage technology in agriculture, you're getting your energy from a renewable source, and the storage cost is also being reduced. The technology of energy storage is being reduced as well. Plus, you're coupling that with 3D printing as an emerging technology. So all your physical material needs on the farm as it relates to technology in agribusiness, you can generate it yourself, or can be done locally by ordering. So that nexus, these three nexus here, it leads to significant food security and a significant improvements in exports. And that is how I see the application to Jamaica's ecosystem. There are many other areas as well, of course. And the special mention I have here is the GSS, the global services sector. I mentioned before about cloud computing and the ability of cloud computing to enable knowledge process outsourcing, as well as IT process outsourcing. And the potential here is huge because it now means that Jamaica can service a global customer base. So that scalability, and we're talking about high skill, upskill jobs, not just contact center type jobs, as a decent amount of the industries now focusing that way, but we're shifting significantly, we're ramping up, we're expanding significantly to knowledge process outsourcing and IT outsourcing. Right. So I'll move on now because I've been a little bit focused on agribusiness and agri-tech, and I'm showing you an agribusiness case study for the Netherlands, and I'm doing this because Netherlands they're not only food secure, but they are also the second largest exporter of food globally. The second largest exporter of food globally. So I'm going to kind of highlight a few important points here as it relates to comparison to Jamaica. In terms of arable land, we're about 4 times, our Netherlands is 4 times the size, or they have 4 times the amount of arable land as Jamaica. How does this compare to other outputs? The output per worker, as in the cost, for Jamaica is how much you earn per worker. 10,000 per worker in Jamaica, 94,081 in the Netherlands. No, this is a reflection of the efficiency and the technology that is being applied. Right. I want to jump back to show the employed labor force. Even with all of that, we employ more persons in our agribusiness sector than Netherlands do. All right, but still, the output per worker for Netherlands is significantly more by them leveraging technology. The leading products, as in crops, we do sugar cane, yams, coconuts. Netherlands are sugar beet, potatoes, and onions. Move on now to fisheries and the tons of export. We do 15,346, they do 411,000. Now, this is understandable because they have a lot of agriculture because of their landscape, but there's a lot of water embedded in their landscape. So this is not up for major consideration, but I've left it here. However, if you look at export of products, we're exporting 331,000. The Netherlands is exporting 102 million export of products. So we are 0.32% of what Netherlands exports, which is significantly less. So it really speaks to how much more we can do with the arable land that we have. So leading products, we export alcohol, tubers, and beer. They export live plants, flowers, and cheese. So I'm showing this here just as a parallel and a potential food for thought. So where do we go from here? I won't go through the imports, the fiscal incentives. We have the productive input relief. They focus on R&D and innovation incentive. So, and this is a penultimate slide, and I'm just going to show you how we compare to the Netherlands. For cereals, they're about 4 times that we are. There's no information as relates to citrus fruits, but for fruits, they're also about 4 times that we are. For pulses, again, roughly 4 times. For roots and tubers, not as much as 4 times. For vegetables, around 4 times what we are. Core agriculture exports. So what does this mean? Should Jamaica consider pivoting to other crops which have more potential for larger global demand? Are we too concentrated on what we produce now as opposed to looking at what are the global crops? Where can we expand to? Should we also focus more on value-added export agriculture products? So this needs a little bit more assessment, but it is food for thought. So where can we go as it relates from a jumper perspective in terms of generating and finding those investment opportunities to drive the economy going forward? So, gentle folks, we've gone through and thanks for walking with me through that journey. What is the key takeaway? There are numerous emerging and disruptive technologies currently at play. There is a need to make a comprehensive assessment of which is best fit for Jamaica. I'm recommending, or I'm looking at agriculture, agribusiness, technology and agribusiness, renewable energy, and global services sector. Now, again, due to the pandemic, there was an automatic pivot into these areas. Yes. And in fact, as a country, tourism is a pillar and we'll still hold on. But in terms of, we'll still hold on to that pillar. But in terms of disruptive technologies, these are the ones that we can leverage if emerging technology and apply them towards that. What is our challenge together? While economic and social challenges, as well as the pandemic, has Jamaica in survival and recovery mode, it is important to shift the mindset towards recognizing our innate capabilities of being global innovators, disruptors, and to implement programs designed to develop the younger generation so that 15, 20 years from now, we are the ones doing the innovation and generating the disruptive technology and not necessarily. So we're behind the wheel and we are the drivers. All right. And with that, I leave you. Thank you very much to PIOJ for the opportunity. And thank you, Amo.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. A lot of food for thought there. We're going to go into our question and answer session now. I already see some questions coming up in the chat, and I invite others to put their questions and their comments in the Zoom chat for our chat monitors. Just to say to you, Gabriel, that what really jumped out at me is the juxtaposition in your presentation of the steam engine, which was like the real breaking technology in the 1700s to where we're at now with high-speed trains that are all computerized and such, and how that can really disrupt even the way we think of what is long haul.
I'm having some.
Sorry, Gabriel?
I'm having some reception issues. I'm not hearing you so well. So could you repeat?
Oh,
please?
I'm sorry about that. Okay. I was just saying it was interesting how you juxtaposed in your presentation the steam train, which was, super disruptive technology in the 1700s.
Right.
To where we're at now with these high power super speed trains that are computerized and everything, and how that kind of train now can, even for us, just change altogether what we think of as the suburbs, because it's so much quicker to get from the suburbs to the center of the city, that sort of thing. And how it can change even in terms of shipping and that sort of thing. So, I mean, I know it's just one of many points that you had made, but it really just jumps out at me that, just about anything can be a disruptive technology, especially if it's utilized properly. I hope you were able to hear us. Gabriel, are you able to hear?
Okay. Are you hearing me now? Because I'm having some really slow reception.
Understood.
Yes. Okay. So let me see if I can try and answer your question really quickly. I hope you hear me properly. The major implication here is actually supply chains and how fast and responsive our physical supply chains will be impacted by those by the speed trains. Because the reality is where we are now as it relates to supply chain, and we saw how much the COVID pandemic impacted our supply chain. So where we had standardized supply chain routes, within the logistics space, there had to be a lot of pivoting to secondary and tertiary options or routes. So what that also means, and I'm saying this to say, if we have much faster trains, the capability of transporting goods across the globe and across the US will increase significantly. So business in general will have to be more responsive. Customer expectations will have to be more responsive. The shift in population, also I mentioned in the presentation, the whole idea of we have a congested, developed city. in terms of have an understanding of the impact of what super trains will do on a developed city environment if you can now live 4 or 5 miles out of the city and traverse into the city. So it has a lot of implications in terms of shopping, in terms of population, in terms. So it is a very disruptive technology. It is physical nonetheless, but it has major implications for economic and social growth.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. We have some questions and comments in the chat, but first of all, I want to greet warmly the PIOJ's former Director General, Dr. Hutchinson, who is online with us and who has shared some interesting comments and asked a question in the chat. I'm wondering if he would be able to unmute and possibly share his video and ask his questions. We'd love to have him in this discussion. Dr. Hutchinson?
Hi, can you hear me, Laura? Okay, greetings everyone. This is a
And I can hear you as well.
Okay.
And I'm apologies for the technical issues.
No. Well, Gabriel, I was able to hear you loud and clear in all of your excellence. So
wonderful.
I wanted to jump to a question. You presented a lot of really nice technological advances that can help move us forward in terms of what I would call greasing the wheels of commerce, to make sure that capital can move efficiently into the areas where it can be arbitrage against opportunities, right? And, and you talk about Holland, but Jamaica has stubbornly not been able to broaden access to credit to the private sector. Even the last numbers I saw, we were, with a new calibration, we are now, I think, 42, 43%. But the global average is 126%. And Holland, that you speak of, is close to 200% as a percent of GDP, credit moving into the different things. So when you introduce all these technological things, there's a way in which those things then can enhance the scalability of opportunities and enterprises. So I just want to know what are the complementary things we need to do in Jamaica to make sure that as we try to build the technical capacity for commerce, we also then are doing the other things that will stop our continued 50-year decline in productivity, both absolute and relative to the rest of Central America and the Caribbean, and our declining global competitiveness. So you present a nice technical framework, as Jampo showed, but we have been through this many times and it has not stopped. It has not broadened the credit to the access. And even when it has broadened, it is more narrow. It is going to a more narrow band. You know that, I know that.
Yes.
Right? So I'd love to hear your comment.
So very, very good points and an excellent question as well. I think one of the challenges as Jamaicans, and we know this, is resource and knowledge base. We have limited resources and we've always had challenges in terms of upskilling our workforce in an effective and efficient way. In my mind, interestingly, this is an opportunity that has presented itself because of the pandemic and the transition to a virtual environment, and there's a reason why I'm saying this. So there's a need to go digital, to have digital transformation, not just in business, but also in education as well. So for argument's sake, how do we upskill, right, a larger number of Jamaicans locally in business knowledge, in technological knowledge as well? So how do we leverage the digital space so we have scalable, right, transference of information and business skills that will impact, that will filter through now to the different small, medium, small enterprises that will drive the economy forward. So that's one side of it. The knowledge component is a significant component side of it. How do we ensure that our populace is informed, is knowledgeable, and they utilize? So in other words, we don't have to limit to a 40-student classroom. if you understand the concept I'm getting to here. So we can expand it. So in terms of, university, tertiary, certificate course access, we can expand that significantly across our population. And not just technology now. We're talking about business skills and knowledge skills specific to different areas that are needed globally. And we leverage the global services sector as well. So we couple that transference of knowledge base through the global services sector, for argument's sake, right? And in that way, we'll drive the economy. To your other point, as it relates to technology and the utilization of the business environment, as a part of the Economic Recovery Task Force, there's a Go Digital program. And the government is actively involved. DBJ has a $200,000 voucher program, $200,000 voucher program for medium, small, for micro, small, medium enterprises to access this voucher program to get services to go digital. Recently, there's an increase in the contribution towards this program, I think up to $1 billion. So what that means then is the SMEs will have access to funds that will allow them to go digital. So this will drive commerce. This will also enable the online environment to drive the purchasing power of the global environment, leveraging Jamaica as a brand as well. Because so the idea behind person being able to purchase local, authentic Jamaican brands from anywhere in the world is huge, and that has major implications. So if we can ensure that the knowledge base is secured, business environment knowledge base is secured, and then we now have the MSMEs getting access to loans, getting access, and these are the loans that will allow them to go digital, to ramp up their business capabilities. I think if we couple those two, we'll have a significant result and impact on the economy. Yes.
Thank you so much for that response. And thank you, Dr. Flooney. Did you have one other quick comment? You were muted. If not,
excellent question, by the way.
Yes.
I stayed muted because his response was so comprehensive, right? And I'm totally satisfied. I'd love to hear other people's comments. Thanks.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Hutchinson. And again, welcome. We have other questions in the chat, and I'm going to ask our chat monitor, Gwyneth, to just field those for me. And
yes,
we can get some other persons involved in the conversation as well.
Yes, thank you. Quite a few questions here. Good morning, everyone. This is Gwyneth. So we will go to Sharon, who already asked a question, but it's kind of relevant. At you, Gabriel, in comparison to the Netherlands, do we have the capacity to trade as they do? Do we have the markets, economically feasible transportation costs, and factors of production / economies of scale that will allow us to do more? That's the question.
Okay. That wonderful question. And in fact, the Netherlands is a very difficult comparison, right? And in terms of their population, in terms of how advanced they are. So the comparison wasn't really to say, hey guys, this is a country that is on par with Jamaica. The rationale behind the comparison was arable land. That's the rationale behind the comparison. Okay. To say that, okay, we have a far way to go, yes. Right, but if we leverage technology, and that's the key point I like the takeaway here. If we focus on starting to leverage technology in our agriculture space, there is significant potential in that regard. So I don't want to take it out of context in terms of why Jamaica is being juxtaposed beside the Netherlands. The reality is, in terms of the arable land space that we can utilize in Jamaica, it is limited. It has always been limited in comparison to the United States or Canada or large agriculture-driven countries. But what was interesting about it was how they leverage technology to drive their economy to become the second largest exporter of foods in the world. So to me, I'm not, so don't sometimes the natural response, but we can't compare ourselves to somebody that is, or our country that is performing so well and has the ecosystem and the benefits that we don't. And I get that. But at the same time, we also can look at the positives and align with those positives and those opportunities. So it's important for us to have a positive slant and look at the opportunities in that regard.
Thank you. And as just an addition, Dan Davis is supporting what you said. She's noticing that the Netherlands, they have a lot of flat lands and are one of the largest global re-exporters of agricultural products and they are bordered by large markets, and that helps them. So another question from David Wan, who is saying, very good presentation. Since the presenter is from JAMPRO, can we get a little plug about initiatives which are thought to be game changers a few years ago, Logistics Hub, SEZ as a means of attracting new investments? I believe you named some of them, but maybe an opportunity to just bullet them quickly.
Could you repeat the first part of the question? My reception went out and came back in. Sorry.
Sure. He's saying, can you just give us a lineup of initiatives which were game changers, initiatives that were done a few years ago? You had mentioned them, but maybe this is a great opportunity to just give us a quick highlight before we move on to the next question.
I can give you current initiatives. I don't know about initiatives from the past that were game changers based on my tenure at JAMPRO now. Right now, what we're focusing on is a national investment policy, the 5-year manufacturing strategy, and of course, our national business portal. Those 3 initiatives will have a significant impact on the business environment in Jamaica. And I'll start with the national business portal, because that will enable, of course, individuals to access relevant business environment information, approvals, requirements as it relates to permits. So everything is a lot more efficient. Persons can start to apply online for a lot of the different areas in terms of land permits, approval to purchase land. So I would encourage individuals to visit the National Business Portal to get the relevant information around the business ecosystem and environment in Jamaica. And it's actually, it enables feedback and responses that will guide individuals through their investment process, setting up their business and getting the relevant regulations passed or approved. The national investment policy, which is something that's being worked on now, is in essence, it is the first time that we're able to offer a comprehensive framework of how we're going to drive investments in Jamaica. And a major part of that, of course, included is how we're going to leverage technology and the focus on technology in that regard. I mentioned the manufacturing strategy and agriculture strategy. These are important initiatives. And in fact, as it relates to the agriculture strategy, I think it was very timely because it recognized the pandemic has shown us the importance of being food secure, and also the importance of agriculture to Jamaica as a country, and how much we can leverage it towards economic growth. It also showed the need to diversify towards making agriculture a stronger pillar in the economy. I'm going to pause there because I'm seeing where my internet connection is a little bit unstable.
Okay, so I will jump in and just say that another comment from Orland Simpson was that we tend to think in terms of silos as it relates to the disruptive potential technology and what's best for a particular sector of business. And his point is we need to start thinking about technology that works seamlessly across the entire societal ecosystem.
Yes.
And moving to the next question, Romaine Williams is asking, what are your views on the cannabis industry, and do you see it as a potential commodity that can foster both economic and sustainable growth in Jamaica?
Absolutely. The cannabis industry is no longer in its interim stage. It's actually very developed globally now. We need to get into this space as it relates to the export market as soon as possible. We are doing exports in a small amount, but the reality is Jamaica has a huge brand as it relates to cannabis. And cannabis also has huge, significant medicinal benefits that we can and should leverage locally. The challenge that we have, of course, is ensuring that the ecosystem is compliant with certain regulations, because there are implications globally. So that, in a nutshell, yes, there are a lot of activities going on locally in terms of investment in the cannabis industry, both from a medical perspective and in terms of recreational use. I see the benefit more in the medical use of cannabis, because the opportunities there in terms of how it will funnel and drive growth in the economy is significant, at least in the first instance.
Thank you. We
Wonderful questions.
Okay, well, let's see if
Thank
we
you
find
so
the next question so wonderful. Have we explored leveraging our relation? Oh, this is from Gerald Johnson. Have we explored leveraging our relationships in agriculture with regards to migrant workers, as perhaps migrant workers can assist in leapfrogging our agricultural industry? Is this a question you can address?
Migrant workers as it relates to persons overseas or persons here?
Yep.
I'm trying to clarify because it depends on where he's referring to as migrant workers. Because I know that we a lot of Jamaicans go overseas on the farm worker program, and they come back to Jamaica. So I'm trying to want to ensure that I have an understanding of what he's referring to as migrant workers relative to Jamaica's agriculture space.
Can I jump in and explain?
Hi, Gerald. How are you doing?
Oh, excellent, Gabriel. Great presentation. What I was thinking is more so not the migrant workers themselves, but
Yes.
the relationships we have with where we send them. So because what they
knowledge transfer.
So the knowledge transfer, but also possibly the investment side, because I know, because from my farm, I sent one of my workers to Canada, and what he learned and the use of technology is just so far advanced and quicker that if we were able to transport some of those mechanisms back to Jamaica, it would help, because most of our small farmers are small, like, I mean, you showed it on the slide, do small acreages. And so how do we leapfrog our industry if we're dealing with such small acreages versus somewhere like, Netherlands or other places? So if we could utilize some of that.
And I think that's an excellent point. In fact, one of the reasons, what I wanted to come out in the discussion here was how do we get the knowledge that the Netherlands is leveraging in technology to Jamaica? Because it wasn't just a matter of physical limitations then. It's just a matter of what's the knowledge that we need to apply the technology locally. So in terms of how it is done, we'll have to look at. Jamaica now has a program called through JAMPR, Economic Diplomacy Program, and that is an excellent point, that we can leverage our economic diplomacy program to find out if there are cross training opportunities, right, in terms of technology in agriculture, that we can send some of our farmers on over a particular period of time, and once they come back, they'll have a much stronger appreciation for technology in agriculture. One of the challenges is sometimes, of course, is that we don't have some of the more adaptive in terms of first movers as relates to technology applications locally. So we need to ensure that we embed them in an environment where they're recognizing the application and how successful it is. Right. And then coming back to Jamaica and saying, actually, this is where we need to go. Very excellent point.
And something that probably could also help with that is, for example, places like in Canada where the migrant workers are, they can only operate a portion of the year. So perhaps they would consider growing stuff in Jamaica the other part of the year. And so then that could help.
There are spin-off opportunities, exactly. Yes.
I'm loving all of these ideas that are coming up, and I hope it really inspires others amongst us. And I am noticing we're having quite a few guests join. So thank you all so much for being with us here today. We're going to be moving now to our session evaluation poll. Again, just a very quick poll to give your feedback on this particular session. Thank you so much to Mr. Gabriel Heron for answering those questions. But there's more work for you to do in the chat. You, as Jamaica would say, you mash some corns, and there's a lot of information going around about Netherlands and everything in the chat, Gabriel. So I don't know if you can read and review and maybe respond to some of the questions there. Great, thank you so much. Great, we're seeing our responses coming in, so we can begin to look forward to our third presenter, Mr. Jason Scott, who is going to be bringing us his tech expertise, particularly from the private sector point of view. So as you can see, oops, that slide went very quickly, but we're at our final presenter, and thereafter we're gonna just have our question and answer session as usual. So please continue to put your questions in.
Hi, morning everyone. Thanks for having me here at the PIOJ Forum. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about disruptive technology and disruptive innovation. I hope you find the presentation very insightful. If you have any questions, you can just drop them in the chat. In the meanwhile, let's just bring up this presentation and talk a little bit about, who I am and what we're going to be doing today. So the title of the presentation is Disruptive Technology and Disruptive Innovation. But before we begin, I want to bring greetings from the now rebranded Jamaica Technology and Digital Alliance, JTDA, formerly known as the JCS. This rebranding came up as a merger between the JCS and the Jamaica IT Service Alliance. And we're looking forward to doing great things together, primarily focused on advocacy and training for IT staff and general, public enablement and digital literacy. So, thanks. You can check out our social media for more information. And if you're not a member, please join. So, a little bit about me. My name is Jason Scott. I'm a graduate of UA, where I studied computer science, physics, and biology. I also tutored there during my time. And while at UA, I did a lot of hackathons. So hackathons are, little 24-hour challenges where you write some code or design an application to solve a problem. So I did a couple of those locally, regionally, and internationally, and that was fun. That's where I got a lot of my experience. Eventually ended up as a full-time job being a software engineer, working for Fortune 500 companies around the world, companies like Walmart, Toys R Us, Office Depot, and Home Depot, where we did a lot of work focused around data science, AI in supply chain management, AI in shopping. We did a lot of platform migrations, tons of fun stuff. But in my personal life, did two projects I'm really proud of. One is called Node 420, which is focused around agri-tech and applications of technology to agriculture. So that's like predictive analysis on soils, predictive analysis on crops, and did a company called Blaze, which was the first mobile payment platform in the region before all regulation hit. And then the regulation hit and, it didn't really pan out for us. Then I joined the JCS, where I'm now the deputy president. I am the thorn amongst the roses in that, as you can see in that picture in the background. And, we've been focused on, enabling a lot more of our IT professionals in the space. Eventually transitioned from being a software developer into, more like an IT management consultant, where, helping companies with their digital strategy, digital in the sense of, holistic digital, not only digital marketing, where eventually transitioned to where I'm now at Grace, from the head of digital transformation for insurance. So it's very important that we distinguish between, innovation, disruptive innovation, and disruptive technology, because, a lot of people, will throw these words around, but, what does it really mean? So let's jump right in, what is disruptive innovation? So disruptive innovation is, an innovation that affects and disrupts and displaces the operations of a market. So a lot of people will hear this sentence and say, but isn't that just, innovation? No, innovation is more a practical implementation of an idea or a new way of doing something. So it doesn't necessarily disrupt or displace, everybody else in the market. So let's look at some quick examples of that. The camera, flat screen TVs, Blockbuster, those were all innovations in their time. But look at disruptive innovation now. Right now, I'm pretty sure everybody has a cell phone in their pocket, which has higher resolution than most DSLRs. We also have Netflix, which killed Blockbuster, and we have, ride-sharing apps now, which are, displacing a lot of traditional taxis around the world. So that's the difference now between, innovation and disruptive innovation. So what does that look like right now in Jamaica? So I want to do a quick, background, a quick check as to, the landscape in Jamaica. What can we do here locally, or what has been done here locally in the tech land space? Primarily in tech in Jamaica, it's focused primarily on software. So you have companies like Innovate 10X and Brainbox, particular presence on Real Liquor, who are, software development, IT management companies who help you with witty solutions. Reason why you have a lot of these companies, because, access to information is there. It's easy to get access. It's on the internet. It's taught in the schools, but, it doesn't stop there. You have those are all local companies, and you have companies that are founded by Jamaicans, like Same Logic. So Same Logic does micro surveys, and they take in a lot of, other facets, such as, facial expression while doing a survey, how quickly you respond. So this is founded by a Jamaican right now in Silicon Valley. We also have companies that are, coming up, like Orba One. They're a centralized identity management platform built by Jamaicans in Jamaica. And it's not only, Jamaican companies, but you have Jamaicans disrupting overseas as well. So we have graduates from UE and UTech working at Apple, Google, and Facebook. So, we have a fairly good tech background. We have a fairly good tech sense of what tech is in the Caribbean, particularly in Jamaica. But it's not only focused on software. We have companies focused on the hardware side of things as well. Companies like Prelabs. Prelabs is one of those companies that, partnered with the JPS to build smart meters. They also were part of Citizens Response when COVID just came out. They did a lot of 3D printing around masks. They worked with the UE engineering department to, refurbish ventilators. We have companies like Farm Credibly, which uses blockchain to help farmers match with funding. They also are now looking into the IoT space, the Internet of Things space, where they're providing farmers with physical hardware so they can track the state of their various farms and make recommendations around that. So those are just, two sets of examples locally of companies who are, applying technology in the right places. But, as I said, it's not only about the technology, it's about how it's implemented and how it's done. So I want to jump, very deep, and this is where the meat of the presentation is now. Disruptive technology is only disruptive because of disruptive innovation. I would go so far as to say there's no such thing as disruptive technology, because it is application of technology that is disruptive. It could be something very simple. It could just be the way you make a door handle that could just displace the entire market. So I want to look now further in Jamaica to see how can we do this here? What sets of tools or what sets of methodologies can we apply to disrupt the space in Jamaica, various spaces in Jamaica? So just look at disrupting the industry. It's COVID times, and we've seen how COVID has been a force multiplier in a lot of companies and a lot of industries. It's caused companies to increase profits tenfold, increase revenues 100-fold. It's also caused some companies to die altogether. So how can you disrupt your industry? You want to identify common problems. Common problems such as, consumers not trusting the system. There's tons of opportunities to implement tech in your industry, but they aren't being done. Products and services aren't, affordable in that particular industry. It's very inconvenient to gain access to that industry, and the supply chain process in that industry is very long. If you can find a way to cut that supply chain process down to like 3 steps, you're winning. If you're looking at providing, the customer, bringing the customer to that solution quicker, you're going to be winning. Or if you can ease the pain of interactions inside that industry, you'll be disrupting it completely as well. Now, one thing I want to always point out, I tell everyone about this, Jamaica is a testing ground for any developing country. If you can do it in Jamaica, you can replicate it across the Caribbean, South America, and parts of Africa. So if you do it here, what I'm saying, dance here before you dance abroad, literally applies right here. And we will always want to be, looking forward at solving local problems and thinking globally. Because if you're only solving very niche specific problems to Jamaica, your business can't scale, and you can't take it overseas. You can't go to VCs and get funding to get it done. and it becomes, generally hard to the business, and eventually you might shut down. And we don't want that. What we also want to look at are things like, if you had $1 million, how do you solve this problem? There are tons of problems that exist in Jamaica. I'm going to be getting into those about 2 slides from now. There are tons of problems that we have here, especially around, supply chain management, last mile delivery, as well as payments. Those are some big pain points here in Jamaica right now. And you want to look at how, if you could just dream it up, how do you solve that problem? What would your moonshoot look like? A lot of these companies out here will tell you, we tried this and we stopped, because we never had enough funding, which is fair. We tried this and we never got the response that we wanted from the market. That I don't think that's an excuse. You have tons of, like I said, pre-labs in particular, they have overcome a lot because they're a hardware focused company. So importing parts, 3D printers in particular for them are very expensive and hard to import. So you want to look at, failing fast, picking up yourself and moving forward, because that's where each failure is a chance for you to learn, to see what can you do differently, what part of the experience you need to change so that you can deliver value. And in delivering value, you could have solved a lot of problems. So you're looking at disrupting your industry and disrupting, access to your industry, which is a big part of it as well. So we also want to look at, the types of technology you could be looking at. So in my opinion, you need to keep on, to keep your ear to the ground when it comes to technology. So we're looking at, these are like the 8 main, groups of technology that are enabling a lot of companies right now. So I have like AR, VR, cybersecurity, access to information, not ownership of information. We have big data and analytics. We have IoT, which is Internet of Things. We have 3D printing, which is literally going to be a game changer. We have cloud technology, which it's dirt cheap. Everybody has access to it. And we have AI and automation. And of course, we have the big boy, blockchain. So blockchain is poised to be a disruptor, particularly in the manufacture and distribution space, because it allows complete transparency for end-to-end delivery of goods and services. Also looking at big data and machine learning. So capturing more information in that particular space, looking at how we can do optimizations of particular bits of data, how we can do predictive analysis on various data sets to make recommendations in that particular space, and IoT to help all of that out. IoT can mean 2 things. It could mean Internet of Things, which I guess most people are used to. That most common application would be like an Alexa or a Google Home, say, hey, turn on the lights, turn off the lights. It could be your smartwatch, which tells you your heart rate, which also, keeps you informed as to your general health. But IoT is coming to take on a new meaning recently. It's more becoming the intelligence of things. So how can that smartwatch now affect, ads being displayed to you on your phone or on the internet? How can, the various interactions you have with your home devices improve your overall life? And the very simple one that everybody looks over, it's not in that top 8, robotic process automation, which is RPA, and optical character recognition, OCR. These 2 are so simple, but so many companies here in Jamaica don't want to implement them. This right here, RPA and OCR, I believe is the force multiplier in Jamaica right now. We have a lot of paper, we have a lot of books, we have a lot of manual processes that we insist on doing. RPA and OCR are, quick answers to low-hanging fruit, especially when it comes to, you want to digitize paper. That's where your OCR comes in, optical character recognition. You scan a document, it pulls out the text off the paper. You may need somebody to just verify that it's an O1, not a Q, or an O1, not a P. And then you run that through a robot, and the robot will go ahead and, do that entire business transaction for you. It will process that form. It will put the information where it needs to go. It will send it off in an email if it needs to be sent off in an email. It's very easy to implement. Implementations of RPA and OCR are probably about $30,000 initially with low recurring costs, but they have the ability to transform a business to make operations way more effective. And I want to remind everybody that technology is very accessible in this day and age, which is why you have a lot of software development companies, you have a lot of IT management companies. Cloud computing it levels the playing field for everybody. It may sound daunting and intimidating at once, initially, but you have DigitalOcean, you have Google Cloud, you have Amazon Web Services. Amazon is not only for shopping. Amazon makes most of its money from web services, where they sell servers, they sell computing engine space, they sell databases, and you also have Azure, which is Microsoft's offering, where you can gain access to world-class systems for like 25 cents an hour, or 2 cents an hour, or fractions of a cent per hour that you can use to run your business online. And you could look at leveraging this to lower your monthly costs or your operating expense as well. You could also look at this to be the force multiplier in your business. If you want to invest heavy in cloud, I don't mean like moving your on-prem data to the cloud. I mean literally leveraging the big data analysis tools that they have, the AI tools that they have, to look into your business or look into your industry to then provide more value. That's something that's big. In my space in technology, primarily when I was a software engineer, the biggest disruptor that we had was WYSIWYGs. That's what you see is what you get. Where before everybody wants to make a website, you have to call a webmaster. The webmaster would sit down and write all this code for you. Right now, you could go on a site like Squarespace or Wix or WordPress, and you can just drag and drop parts of a website together. It's so easy, anybody can do it. Like that was a complete disruptor in software engineering. I know it's moving from where software engineering is a highly coveted and hard to get into space, where right now anybody who can match colors can generate an AI. You can mix and match different colors on different blocks on some of these platforms or you can get your data from one side, you can put it into a processing bit on one side, and then you can generate an AI at the end of the day. Like software engineering they're lowering the bar to entry, and that is a huge disruptor in my space right now. We're also looking at YouTube DIY. This is where a lot of the local engineering space goes when it comes to 3D printing, soldering, circuitry, integrated circuits. A lot of people are going to YouTube to learn more, especially the best practices and keeping in touch with the current trends. And on that note, it's all about joining a community. So it's looking at joining something like the JCS, joining something like the Software Developers Association of Jamaica. If you're into cybersecurity, you want to look at the Caribbean Cybersecurity Task Force, or you can join the PSOJ and then get involved with technology from there. So there are tons of communities out there that you can reach out to if you're not tech inclined, but you want to learn more about tech. Primarily, I will always push JTDA, formerly JCS, because we're looking at digital literacy, getting everybody, what is cloud computing, what is blockchain type stuff, getting everybody up to speed when it comes to that. So, we've discussed, what the space is, what disruptive innovation should be, how to approach disruptive innovation, and the various technologies that you can look to apply to various industries. So I want to look at, like, right now in Jamaica, what are some of the things that is holding us back? So I had a discussion with some of my peers, ranging from people in cybersecurity, people in web development, startups and entrepreneurs, and asking them, like, what are the limitations of the current system? Like, what would make it easier for you to use tech in Jamaica? And these are not only limited to tech companies. These are like MSMEs as well, private sector companies. Why do you not invest more in tech so that you can be that game changer? From a pure software point of view, main thing is there's no there's no data, there's no open data initiatives in Jamaica. There was once a portal back in the early 2010s, I think it was like 2012, 2013, where you had access to government data, public data, where you could, it was open source. So you could pull all this public information and then you could use it to make more informed decisions. You could use it to write applications, and it was well maintained. But I don't know what happened to it. It sort of fell off. So there's no standard open data initiatives where public sector companies or government shares information just publicly, like weather data, for example, agriculture data, company statistics data. I mean, it's there. Public trading companies submit all the information to the Jamaica Stock Exchange, but for me to sit down and go through the reports and then put that into a format, it's painstaking. There's no standard way to share information between public companies. So that's one. Another big limitation, especially when it comes to private sector and MSMEs, are digital signatures. Right now, digital signatures are slowly gaining adoption due to COVID. You can't really have that physical interaction. So in some cases, people will accept a digital signature over wet ink. But on certain legal documents, primarily insurance and land transfers, you can't digitally sign them. Or we also don't have a standard digital platform when it comes to digital signatures. So this is where something like NIDS would come in and help solve that problem. Or having a standard agreement between government entities or companies to use one particular signing platform that everybody will sign up for. For example, Adobe Fill and Sign and stuff like that. So those are two of the main ones when it comes to software engineers starting up a company, as well as private sector companies. And now focusing heavily on private sector companies and like large companies as well. There's no something like Shred. So Shred is something I became familiar with when I was doing some work in Canada. That's a scientific research and experimental development program. So what that does, it uses tax incentives to encourage Canadian businesses, no matter what sector, what size, what industry, to invest and conduct research, in Canada in particular, in advancing their particular industry. So tax incentives come in three forms. You have, like an income tax deduction is one. You have investment tax credit, where the government will just give you back the money and you must use it to keep that project going. And then in certain cases, it's just a straight up refund. So they give you cash back, which is always nice. So right now, I think it benefits more than 20,000 companies, and it gives more than 3 billion Canadian dollars in the tax incentives, which, it's the largest federal program in Canada right now. And it's administered by the equivalent of the tax office there. And so this works for everybody. This works for individuals, this works for companies, this works for nonprofits, this works for trusts, it works for partnerships. But it's the government's way of incentivizing people to invest more in technology and research to innovate in their particular field. So like this would be a big game changer if I was in Jamaica. Companies will be more likely to partner with smaller companies. Large companies will partner with smaller companies to look at delivering value in a different way. I am hyped about this. If we could get this working in Jamaica, I believe we'd see a lot more public-private sector partnerships, especially since there's a lot of incentive around it, primarily in that income tax deduction and tax credits as well. And finally, the last thing which a lot of people have been complaining about is a real-time payment network. So I understand, we have all these e-commerce gateways, we have RTGS and ACH, but having something similar to what they have in Singapore or Brazil or in Europe generally, or in Canada, where I can send money to somebody regardless of bank and they get it immediately, would help greatly. A lot of the companies that we have out here, they have problems with collection of funds for services dispersed. They have to wait on a screenshot from a bank transfer. They have to wait on somebody to give them cash, or they have to hope that the person has the same bank account as them, so that they can do a real-time transfer. But it's not only that. A lot of these companies as well, they look at doing, recurring revenue. So they're service companies, and there's no, there's no platform right now that allows, recurring payment from a bank account, so a direct withdrawal from a bank account, or a direct charge on a credit card. So these are the top four right now when it comes to limitations on the current system, and what is holding companies back when it comes to innovating in their particular space. So I've told you all of this, but the real question on everybody's mind is what in Jamaica is ripe for disruption? Right off the bat, healthcare, straight up. Like coronavirus has really exposed that. You have companies like MD Link, which have been a network of doctors, a platform that allows doctors to connect directly to patients. So you're looking at the rise and advance of telemedicine. I mean, that's just one company. There's space for more. The legal space right now, seeing a lot of sessions moving to Zoom, which means that you don't need to be in the courthouse in the first place. But there are also limitations around submissions of documents. Why can't we email in these documents? Why can't we have a robot, scan the text and then upload it to a central database? Why is there no central data? There's tons of disruption in the legal space right now. Like, do you really need a lawyer to generate a contract? Or can you create a smart enough AI that can look at previous contracts of that type, pull out the salient bits, assemble it for you, and you just put in your name and address and then sign it? The insurance industry, where I'm in right now, very, very prime for disruption. You have the rise of telemetrics portals, so looking at the application of smaller bits of information to serve as underwriting fuel, not only in the car but in the home insurance space, also in claims. You don't really need somebody to go to assess a claim. You need a video and an AI to say, hey, this crash looks like that, and using AI in mitigating against claims fraud. In the financial space, this has been an industry that has been disruptive time and time again. But in Jamaica, we really need to look at disrupting the space. Like, why do I need 10 million pieces of information to get a loan, to open a bank account, to get an investment account? Why can't you look at extraneous data sets, looking at how many phones I have, my social media habits, to then give me a loan? Why can't I get a bank account and then convert that to an investment account? Why can't I run my card for example, $730 and then round it up to $800 and then have the additional $70 go into a savings account or an investment account? There are tons of opportunities to disrupt the financial space. I could do a whole presentation on this as well. And then last but not least, the manufacturing distribution. As I mentioned before, supply companies or industries with long supply chains can be easily disruptive. So you're looking at last mile delivery across Jamaica, which Jamaica Postal Service has been an excellent job at. But how can we, instead of being consumers of all these resources, of all these things, why don't we look at being producers? Jamaica is primely placed in the Caribbean. We have one of the world's largest natural ports. So we could look at, assembling a lot more stuff here. So buying, the raw materials or the raw parts from other companies, assembling it here, and then shipping it towards, the North, Central, and South America. And there are tons of other stuff we could look at, talking about applications of blockchain and supply chain management, looking at digital twins being having a physical device, which is replicated by a software version of that same device. Looking at using robots in manufacturing to increase efficiencies, etc. So how can you, take advantage of this now? Looking for grants, funding opportunities and partnerships, because if you want to go fast, you're going to go alone. But if you want to go far, you need to go with somebody. So we have a good framework here in Jamaica for that. We have the IDB, which has been putting on tons of workshops. They've made tons of resources available when it comes to enabling MSMEs in particular. We have the JTBA, which is, was the JCS. We're doing a lot of setting up a lot of partnerships between public and private companies. We have the DBJ as well. They have their Biggie program, they have their Ignite program, and they're going to be launching, if it's not already launched, a program that allows you to access credits to do work with their verified IT service companies. So you can look at getting digital transformation done, getting a website up and running for your company. Companies like Jampro as well, who was just before me, who look at matching, overseas suppliers or overseas companies with local talent. And we have the GSS sector as well. So all of these are geared around, MSMEs. But if you're a startup, you can look at Tech Beach Retreat. They have a new program called Tech Beach Retreat Labs, where you're getting mentorship from people who started Vonage, overseas mentorship to better enable your business, better governance, stuff like that. You have companies locally now, like Innovate 10X, Bloomerhole Capital, that you can work with to get your business up and running. You can become digitally enabled. You can look at getting funding to get some of your stuff done. And for the larger companies, all the companies I showed before on that previous slide, when it comes to technology, they could look at partnering with one company, setting up something like a quote unquote innovation lab, or outsourcing innovation to them, and then having them, look at your particular sector and come up with solutions to solve problems that you may face. So that's really, from me, the main takeaways I'd say from my presentation are understanding industry. I mean, nobody knows the industry like you. Looking at what annoys you the most in your industry and how you think you could solve that problem. And then finally, looking at, partnerships. That's always a solution, partnerships and partnerships and partnerships. Looking in your industry, looking for people who have, the ear to the ground when it comes to tech, and, coming together to see how you can better deliver the value that you bring to your industry, and how you can look at, just changing the game altogether. Thanks again. My name is Jason Scott, and you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. You can always send me an email as well. Thanks, everyone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Jason. Quite a lot of rich, interesting information there, and that's been causing a lot of questions and comments in our chat. I also have seen quite a few dignitaries come in. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I've sent you a little private message so you can check your chat. I see Minister Dunn with us. Minister Dunn, we greet you warmly. And if you would like to make a comment or give a question, we welcome you to do so at this time.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, good morning still. I just want to say congrats to PIOJ for organizing this, and I'm listening intently. The session that just went on was awesome. That's it, somebody wrote, awesome presentation, Jason, and I've been taking my notes as well. You made a very fundamental statement. If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go with others or with partnership. And let me tell you, that is a very provocative statement. And I am looking forward to the other sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. We're so happy to have you here with us today. And thank you to everyone else who has joined us, who have been just coming in during the session. Thank you so much. We are going to go into our question and answer session now. We have quite a few for you, Jason, so roll up your sleeves. But I'm going to use moderator's privilege and just jump in. Having spoken with you before, I know that you're a big believer in incentivizing for research, for innovation. And I think most of us can agree that we do need a lot more. We need to ramp up the research and development aspects here in Jamaica. But do you think incentives are the only way to do it? And aren't the benefits of actually coming up with an innovative product or service reward within itself? I mean, you'll be able to reap those financial rewards?
Yeah, so that's actually a very good question, Laura. A very keen insight. So what happens in the case of traditional businesses here in Jamaica is that we're complacent. Honestly, we're very complacent in what we're doing. We're happy with what we're doing. The traditional way of doing it has got us so far. It's working. We're signing the paper. We'll walk up to the office, somebody stamps, and we're fine with it. So we don't really want to disrupt the formula that we have right now. We don't want to look at changing that formula because as humans, we're naturally resistant to change because change scares us, especially if it's something like rapid that we can't see the clear benefits of today. I think Anika mentioned it in her presentation. We need to stop looking at the short term, like the 1 year. We start looking at the 3, 5, 10 year and building for that. So you need to aim for the company that you want to be in 5 years, and then start putting your head down when it comes to that. So initially, incentivization does help. If you can, give some short-term benefits or some short-term wins for a long-term solution, it's pretty much the agile approach. So that we can look at getting, quick wins for business means, saving money or getting revenue. Not necessarily, reducing operational waste by 30%. That's not something that always affects the balance sheet or the revenue or attacks the bottom line. So for the short term, the incentivization works. It allows them to actualize these gains or these results, the benefits of the innovation in the immediate term. while reaping the benefits in the medium to long term. So initially, yes. There are cases with certain companies where they look at, dedicating part of their budget to innovation, which is great. I will always recommend it hands down, because what they're doing now is that they're taking people who they think, can change the way the business is doing, and they're pushing them out of the business. Like one of the companies I work with in North America is a large distributor of food supplies and food services across the states, like in all states. So if you've been to an airport or you know a public school and they're serving food, they probably got it from that company. They moved their head office, I believe, is, for example, in New York. They moved their entire innovation team to Texas to get them away from all the bureaucracy, get them away from all the traditional way of thinking, so that they could look from the outside in and disrupt the entire company itself. So whenever they'd make a presentation, in like every 6 months they do a presentation, they'd come back with a new way of solving a current problem in the business. So back to the point, yes, incentivization in the short term is a solution, and as more businesses reap the benefits of doing that innovation and that investment, more will be led to follow and do the same.
Understood. Thanks so much, Jason. Having a strong market research background, I completely understand about business not allocating funds to research. And you had mentioned you have to know your client, you have to know what the problem is to be able to fill it. So it is important for companies to put that into their budget, but for those who need the help, then definitely we are going to have to incentivize that. I am going to introduce Mrs. Kelly Ann Murray, who's going to be our chat monitor for this session, and she's going to be sending a lot of questions your way, Jason. So here we go. Kelly Ann, over to you.
Thank you, Laura. Good morning, Jason. Good morning, everyone.
Okay.
First question to you, Jason. The need for effective implementation of technology is a critical point you raised. Do you know of technologies currently existing in Jamaica that, if properly implemented, has a good chance of becoming disruptive and significantly improving economic growth?
Yeah, I want to go back to my presentation where I mentioned robotic process automation and optical character recognition. That is by far the quickest win that we can have. Imagine if we could automate the entire process of being written up for a ticket, for example. If let's say you have an accident or someone hits your car, you have to go to the police station, and then the police officer pulls out a giant book, takes your report, and then issues you a piece of paper, which you then have to keep. Yeah, literally, you have to keep that piece of paper and then submit that to your insurance company. And when they ask for the formal report, the police officer or someone in the police department goes back to that ledger. They type it out on a computer, they hit print, they put it in an envelope, and then you as the person have to go and pick it up, carry it to the insurance company, or have a bearer of it. I think that's a waste of time, honestly. I think we could be doing so much more in that regard. So like robotic process automation, like I mentioned, would be like, if we do that properly, or if we not even do that properly, if we do like a POC, which is a proof of concept for that, I believe that we can definitely get some big rewards. So what we're looking at is a reduction in waste of people's time. We're looking at a reduction in waste of paper. We're looking at the proper transmission of information between businesses. So if it is that you want to file a report, RPA would solve the backlog issue. So that I would more look at existing reports, putting them into a system and digitizing them so that they can be easily found and referred to when it goes to court, for example, or when an insurance company requests for it. Internally in several companies as well, when it comes to filing papers, asking for leave, getting a sick note, asking for a salary advance, asking for a salary reduction. Those are all manual forms that we have to fill out and then submit to HR, and then HR to carry it to management for them to approve and carry it to accounts. No, that's a waste. If you could look at some way of having all these documents scanned, put into a system, and then having that system routing the various information to the various business units, and then having the business units interact with that, that would be the big game changer. So that would start to solve the problem of finding information. So instead of having all these filing cabinets and waiting on Miss Margaret to go downstairs to where all the filing cabinets are, and then looking through the Rolodex for that particular index card, and going to filing cabinet F, and then looking in column J for it, and then going through all that paper. We could just go on a computer and hit search. So,
just say to you, Jason, that we are actually utilizing that for land titles, which is very important. So, you know, the usage has already started, but, you know, we need to use it in so many more things. I mean, you're even saying small things like a sick leave, that sort of thing. Very interesting. Thank you. Kellyanne?
Thank you, Jason. A quick question from Gerald Johnson. Is JDTS the driver for policy change needed for the adaptation of digital signatures?
So JTDA,
yes,
sure we're getting this right. Jamaica Tech and Digital Alliance. Yes, we're very big on advocacy and lobbying the government. So right now we have done, no problem, Gerald. No, so far when it comes to lobbying the government, when it comes to digital signatures, that's not something that we're doing actively, but it is a part of a wider advocacy and lobbying strategy that we're doing. Presently, we've made our submission joint with some other companies like Jamaicans for Justice and Roots to the Joint Select Committee for NIDS, because we wanted to make some recommendations around how the bill is structured and how the information should be shared. We're also going to be making a submission around the recent changes to be issued this weekend, the changes to the Cybercrimes Act, as to how, you know, a breach is defined. We're so like stuff like that is stuff that the JTDA will be lobbying for. We would also, you know, we were having a lot of fireside chats on Tuesdays, discussing, you know, topics relevant to digital transformation, digital or disruption needed in Jamaica so that we can advance to be that digital society that we want to be. So yes, we definitely could lobby the government in that regard, but that is something that's currently underway when it comes to a standardized digital signature, one, and two, that's also a problem that NIDS would potentially solve.
Thank you, Jason. And the other question comes from Maureen Dwyer, and it speaks specifically to your digital literacy program.
Yes.
And it's a two-part question from her, and then there's another question which I'll just merge here. She says, speaking of knowledge, could you make an explicit link between this economic disruption and education? That's one part. The second part is, please suggest what a digital literacy program should focus on. And thirdly, and I think related to the second part, is what are the best ways to minimize resistance to technology and also encourage productive use of technology, for example, to earn money, learn new skills, etc.
Okay. So the first part is the impact of digital literacy on the economy, right?
Yes, explaining the link between economic disruption and education.
And digital literacy, no problem. So let's now take you know, the practical example of COVID. I mentioned before, COVID has become a force multiplier for several companies. You either sink or you swim in a very drastic and radical way. Let's say now we're a more digital literate society. Digital literacy in this sense means, you know, understanding technology, like basic technology. So understanding how e-commerce works, understanding how to set up a website, understanding the difference between a Facebook account and an email address, understanding how to, you know, use Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, you know, simple things like that. Well, things that we take for granted as simple. What we could see, what we have seen is, for example, people in the market have turned to WhatsApp to sell their goods and services. So we could look at more enabled marketing opportunities, more sales enablement for micro or solopreneurs, as I like to call them, businesses. So if someone who is for example, a day's worker is now without work, she could send out a WhatsApp blast or put on our website her availability for work during the week and varying rates. If it is that I'm a farmer in the hills of Trelawney, and I have yam to sell, I will put out a WhatsApp blast saying, hey, I have 300 pounds of yam. It's $100 a pound. I wish it were. And, you know, I will be at this location. Place your orders online if you want. I can accept payment online. Or since let's be more practical, you know, place your orders online and they will be reserved. First come, first serve. So we could look at a virtual stimulation of the economy by allowing people who have these goods for sale to just sell them. And it would, you know, money would be back in, be coming back into the economy. When that person gets that money, they're able to pay for the tuition of their child. They're able to, you know, buy common goods and services, pay for bills, repay some loans that they may have, so that the economy isn't as disturbed. But so if we're to now go on this whole digital literacy campaign, what would that look like? So I think I've answered the first and last question in that first part. So the second part now, what would a digital literacy campaign look like? We would look at targeting primarily the same way that we treated Jagas back in the day, where, you know, or Heart, where you go there to learn a trade or learn a skill, you learn to weld, you learn to farm, you learn to be a chef. We could look at the low barrier, you know, entry to IT. You could look at setting up a computer, you know, setting up a keyboard, setting up a printer, basic IT service delivery with physical devices. That's a quick win. The other thing we could look at is quality assurance. So we have a lot of companies out here who have built apps. They have websites, they have their applications that deliver their service. We could look at taking that lower skill market and giving them the platforms and training them on how to, you know, look for defects. These are the features that we're expecting the program to do. Can you tell us where it doesn't do those features? And they could become quality assurance testers. And then from that entry level, you could look at branching out now into being a software developer where you're fixing the problems that you found. Or you could become a security analyst where you're fixing the vulnerabilities that you found. So that's another barrier to entry. We could also take it down a step lower, where we're looking at just basic education, a public education or public awareness campaign as to, you know, how to set up an email address. A lot of people have Facebook accounts and don't really have an email address. So looking at, you know, how to set up an email, how to do a resume online, how to apply for jobs online, how to build your own website. Like I mentioned earlier, building a website now is very easy. You could do this. You could literally learn it in about a weekend. So that's mixing and matching various components on an application to build a website. So that's one thing. The second thing we could be looking at doing is, you know, training people how to do data analysis. So if you, for example, if you have, you know, basic CXCs or CAPEs, we could look at using Excel as a start to the data analysis, how to spot trends in data. And then based on the competencies or how they're so inclined, we could be more advanced and become data scientists or data engineers. So in my estimation, that's like the best way we could go about a digital literacy campaign. We could do a wide canvas, you know, getting an understanding of how, you know, people treat with technology, how they see it. And then we could form, we could give them forms of employment, from being data engineers, data entry clerks, to quality assurance testers, and you know, entry-level web developers or web designers.
Excellent. Thank you, Jason. I see two questions here remaining. The first is from Romaine Williams, and it says, Jason, you mentioned the RPA OCR technology and the concern many businesses have that its cost-benefit element and the timeline for implementing such technology. How quickly can this technology be implemented within an organization? And do you think the initial investment could be recovered in the medium term or in the long term?
So right now, I can say with confidence that you can have an RPA or OCR and RPA solution implemented for a medium-sized business. So let's say you're a well-established company, 10 years old, 15 years old, established in Jamaica, for about between the range of, depending on the level of complexity of business, from 15,000 US all the way to 30,000 US. Depending on the processes you're going for, you could see a return on investment within 6 months. So that's a short-term win. But as I said, depending on the level of investment that you want to have, it will be a short to medium-term win. But it would not be something that you would consist or hold on to. It would be something to get you from where you are to where you want to be. So an RPA solution would pay for itself, I'd say, in less than 2 years. And then during that process of you implementing an RPA or OCR solution, you would look at leveraging other technologies that would replace that solution ultimately, because we don't want you to be paper reliant. We'd want you to transition those physical forms to more digital versions. So maybe it would be a form on your website, or maybe it would be an application that would streamline the entire business process for you. So like back to the question on medium company can see a turnaround time in a medium term. A larger company would see it from short to medium term with a minimum investment of about $12,000.
Thank you. And the final question I'm seeing here is from Howard Scherer. A digital journey has to be underpinned by a robust cybersecurity program. How is this being addressed in Jamaica's public and private sectors? What will be the impact of 5G?
So 5G and cybersecurity are not to be conflated. So I want to separate those two things. So let's start with cybersecurity. Cybersecurity in the private sector is huge. I have had some experience when I just graduated UA in being a white hat in helping companies, fortify the security posture. So a lot of companies partner, a lot of private companies out here in Jamaica partner with security firms, both locally and internationally, to ensure that their security posture is good. The growth of cybersecurity in Jamaica is expected to go one-on-one when it comes with the digital transformation, because we're now enabling a lot of our companies to transact online, hence increasing their online exposure. So a robust cybersecurity program would definitely help in ensuring that companies are well protected. Another way a company can look at protecting themselves, both private and public, is implementing something known as a bug bounty program. You can think of a bug bounty program as Crime Stop, but for code. So if someone goes on your site and they realize that something is broken or something is wrong, there's a section of your site dedicated to reporting. It's called proper disclosure. So you go on that part of the site and you report, hey, I noticed that on this page, if I did these actions, private information was exposed. And that can then inform the company to go and fix the problem. And if you do suggest a way to fix the problem, you could be compensated in cash. So definitely having a robust cybersecurity program in the private sector will help private sector companies. In the public sector, JA Cyber Response Task Force, that's JCRIT, they are doing a revision to the Cybersecurity Act, which was passed in 2010, I believe. The revision is going to be made public over the weekend, and the JTDA and its members will be, reading that and adding additional commentary to ensure that, there is sufficient protection for disclosure, and there's sufficient protection for licensed and certified cybersecurity professionals. So I think those are the two main things right now that will, lay the foundation for a proper cybersecurity framework when it comes to public and private sector. And you mentioned the impact of 5G. That's not something I'm very, I'm not comfortable speaking about it, but in like 2 sentences, 5G will be an enabler in small spaces. So if we're looking at like New Kingston, for example, where we have a lot of people in a small area, 5G would pretty much just open up the bandwidth and allow people to access the internet quicker. That's really all I have to say about
that. Thank you so much, Jason. And I'll just close by saying that I'm receiving both private and public commendations on your presentations and your answer to the questions. And we just want to extend our appreciation, especially in that regard. So I'll hand over now. You're welcome. I'll hand over to Laura.
Thank you so much, Kellyanne. Thank you very much, Jason. And thanks everyone for, your rich comments and questions. I think we're really starting to get into the meat of the matter in terms of how we can actually apply it here in Jamaica. We're going to do our quick session poll for that last session. And I just ask everyone again, please just quickly give us your feedback. Okay, thank you so much for your feedback, everyone. And now it falls to me to bring closing remarks. Yes, we are at closing. We have today been exposed to a number of, I think, opportunities and ideas, both to be users and developers of groundbreaking technology. It would not have been possible to cover all the angles of disruptive technology for growth in our session today. Our intention was to provide stimulating information and discussion that would have you leaving more knowledgeable on the subject and motivated to explore further how we can use emerging technologies and/or create our own. This is actually possible whether you're from the public or the private sector, in a traditional industry or an emerging sector, a group of companies or a micro startup. I really hope that you got that feeling today. How can each of us play our part in making Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business? We all have a role to play in preparing Jamaica's skill set, infrastructure, and importantly, as we have discussed today, mindset, for us to become innovative thinkers and doers, which will redound to Jamaica's economic expansion. To this end, we would like to leave you with a few key takeaways from today's discussions. 3 points regarding tech utilization. We live in a world that is constantly changing, and we have to constantly adapt to remain competitive. But in adopting technology, Jamaica should learn from others, but create our own reality. How do we do that? We need to do a comprehensive assessment of which of the many emerging technologies are the best fit to recover and propel Jamaica's economy in the short to medium term. So we just had Jason mentioning about the robotic process automation, which is a quick win for us. We need to look into that and then explore some of the other technologies that are at our disposal and are upcoming. And from the tech development side of the coin, we have another 3 points. Successful innovation occurs when you focus not on the tech, but on the problem the tech will solve. Probe your space and find a key issue that needs to be fixed. That's the opportunity. Incentives are needed to encourage greater innovation and development in Jamaica. Jamaica must make deliberate efforts to increase digital literacy so we are more aware of the uses, risks, and benefits, because we talked about cybersecurity as well, right? And benefits, and change our mindset towards technology, thereby putting us in a place to generate Jamaican innovators for the future. During this COVID era, we have experienced a rapid uptake of digital technologies in so many spheres. And it is time for Jamaica to not just adapt when we have to, but to catch up with other countries for which this has long since been a way of life. And then begin to foresight and get ahead of the curve until we start making the waves. As a creative, hardworking, and resilient people, there is no doubt in my mind that once we moonshoot, we will germinate. All that remains to be said, therefore, is thank you for your interest in this topic, as demonstrated by you staying with us now to the end. On behalf of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, and specifically my team at the Growth Inducement Programme, I would like to thank the many people without whom today would not be possible. Thanks so much to our Director General, Dr. Wayne Henry, who has been with us and who brought us the opening remarks that really set the stage for the proceedings. To Mrs. Anika Shuttleworth, despite being ill today, who really stayed with us. We really appreciate that. To Mr. Gabriel Heron, to Mr. Jason Scott for their interesting and just, mind blowing in some cases and really thoughtful, provocative presentations and question and answer sessions. And thanks to Miss Janielle Green, Mrs. Odine Cole Phoenix, Mrs. Gwyneth Harold Davidson, Miss Kim Holfat for all the logistical work they put in leading up to this moment. And to Mrs. Kamisha Blake and Mrs. Kellyanne Murray for their invaluable inputs and efforts throughout the planning process and including in today's forum. I'd like to say thanks to the other PIOJ team members, many of whom are assisting today with this smooth execution. You are truly appreciated. And finally, our heartfelt thanks to each person present today. We truly appreciate the time and the effort that you took to be present and to really contribute to today's dialogue. We hope that a seed has been planted and we will work together to tend it so that sooner rather than later, Jamaica will be able to reap bountiful benefits. We ask that you complete this final poll that you will see coming up and invite you to join us on April the 29th for the second forum in our three-part series, where we will explore the topic, diversification for faster recovery and growth. Thank you all. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.